Okay, so welcome everybody. Pasha
Thank
with
you.
the Ohr Hachaim Kodesh. All right. So, uh, Pasha's Korach. So we have this fellow Korach, and he's not happy. Right? There's positions of authority given out, and he's overlooked. So before we get to the Ohr Hachaim, just in general, there's different factors that led to him sort of rebelling. And this was really the first sort of outright rebellion against Moshe. In the past, when people came, they complained. They came and complained, there's not water, so they went into a panic and they overreacted. Instead of coming calmly and realizing, rationally, they're speaking with Moshe, who's the messenger of God. They should just come and ask the question. There's not water, what should we do? Or we're running out of food, what should we do? But because they'd grown up in a life where the whole life was someone else's schedule, someone else's order. This life slave of not being able to think for themselves or deal with a situation themselves. They When something went wrong, they went into a panic.
Oh,
And so it may have sort
absolutely.
of come across a little bit as slightly rebellious, but the point wasn't to be a rebellion. The point was we need water, we need food. Even when they made the golden calf, they thought Moshe died, so they panicked. We need another leader. Some of the Erev Rav considered a god, but I mean, it was a minority of Jewish people who were involved. But even the ones who were, so we need a replacement for Moshe. They went to a panic. This is the first time that someone actually rebelled, open rebellion against Moshe and God. So what happened is there was a few factors. One factor was that uh, after Moshe and Aaron um, were got their positions, we'll say, so if you went by order of hereditary superiority, so Korach was next in line, and he was overlooked as the head of his family. Now, obviously, when we see the way he behaved when he was disappointed, we understand why Hashem appointed someone else. You know, it's, Hashem knows what's inside a person. So though externally he seemed to be a prominent person and somewhat of a scholar in various things, we see as soon as something doesn't go his way, the way he reacts, we understand why Hashem thought that someone else was a better option. But on the surface, before this happened, seemingly he should have been the guy. So he got his nose out of joint over that. Another thing that happened was that when the Levium, the Levites were inaugurated, part of their inauguration is they had the whole body shaved, right? Their head, the eyebrows, the beard, all their hair, entire body. And so he came home and his wife laughed at him. She said, "You look like a clown." And that upset him. Another thing that upset him was that he thought, to a certain extent, he was suspicious that perhaps when Moshe appointed Aaron as the Kohen Gadol, he was just not on merits, even though Aaron really had been the leader of the Jewish people in Egypt until Moshe came. He was certainly well deserving and a well beloved figure, but he saw with some level of prophecy that there was going to be Kohanim Gedolim descended from him. So therefore, he felt he should be the Kohen Gadol. So this was all these things going through his mind, but he couldn't start. He couldn't begin his rebellion because he have Moshe, 10 plagues, splitting of the sea, the man from heaven. Yes, there've been rumblings when things didn't go people's way and they had a panic, but people accepted responsibility to a certain extent. There were minor glitches. Moshe was well loved. He was the incredible leader. He so many miracles happened through him. The giving of the Torah, the building of the Mishkan was just an incredible time. But as we know, last week's Pasha, the spies came back with their negative report, and now there's a decree that this entire generation is going to stay in the desert. They're going to pass away in the desert, and only the next generation is going to go into the land of Israel. So this, we could say, there was like a popular discord. People weren't so happy. There was a little bit of unrest, and there was a little bit of ill feeling. And this was the opportunity that Korach had been waiting for, and he jumped on to start. Interestingly, I mean, we'll get into more details when we get to the Ohr Hachaim Kodesh, but it's just, if we just take the psukim on a simple level, he first started the original Communist Party. Right? He came and said, "Why are you making yourself so big, Moshe and Aaron? We're all equal. All Jews are just as holy. And then, so make me the leader. So we're all equal. Just I want to be more equal than everyone else, while they're all equal. So that was the original the original Communist Party. Then he started, when that didn't work, he started the original Reform movement. Right, so to ridicule mitzvahs because it doesn't make sense to my human mind. Most of us have a little bit of humility, and we're willing to accept, it's quite possible that the Torah, being the product of the infinite intellect of the infinite Almighty God, there might be some things I don't understand, being that I only have a finite intellect. I try my best to understand as much as I can, but most of us have the humility and realism to be able to accept that at a certain point, there's certain things we're not going to understand. But Korach started that movement where it doesn't make sense to me, so we're going to ridicule it. It's no good. So we know he had two examples that Rashi brings down from Chazal. He asked, he came and asked Moshe a question: if you have a room full of Torah scrolls, do you need a mezuzah? So Moshe says yes. So he starts to laugh. So foolish. If one little scroll on the doorway can exempt the room, and now it's fulfilled its obligation, surely if the room's full of entire Torah scrolls. Right? He's putting his own limited understanding onto something. Though we know ideally the tzitzis, the strings on the talus, should have one string of techelis, of a certain blue wool that dyed from the blood of some type of fish, sea creature. No one knows exactly what it is. There's various theories. There's two types of techelis that are on the market today. That different people have different theories that they believe that this is or could be the actual fish, but no one knows for certain. And so they wore a woolen garment that was totally dyed blue with this techelis. And they said, does this garment need tzitzis, this four-cornered garment? Moshe says, yes. And again, they ridiculed. If one string on each corner, that's techelis, that's this blue dye, can exempt the entire garment, and surely if the whole thing is techelis, that should be sufficient. Right? Without understanding that there's deeper meanings, there's certain significance and various things. So this was his general approach. Okay, so I guess we'll give a little introduction. So we start off the first pasuk. So I'll read the first pasuk, the first verse of the because a lot of the details in the pasuk will become relevant in the question and answer that the Ohr Hachaim is going to make. So pasuk Aleph in the Parsha says, "V'yikach Korach." So Korach took, but it doesn't just say Korach took. It gives us whole. Who is this Korach? Ben Yitzhar, the son of Yitzhar. Ben Kahos, the son of Kahos. Ben Levi, the son of Levi. So this Korach, the son of Yitzhar, the son of Kahos, the son of Levi, he took. Doesn't say what he took. This is or where he took. This is going to be one of the things that Ohr Hachaim is going to speak about. So it's him, Bedason va'Aviram b'nei Eliyav, and Dasan Aviram, the sons of Eliyav, V'Oin ben Peles, and Oin, the son of Peles, b'nei Ruvain. So they were all, these three individuals were from the tribe of Ruvain. So that's what happened. They took. Okay. So on a simple level, we're going to see in the next verse, he took people along to come and debate and argue with Moshe. Well, that's what's implied. That's how we normally read it in simple level. So the Ohr Hachaim Kodesh, he starts off in his style with asking questions. So first question says V'yikach, he took, but it doesn't tell us what he took. What did Korach take? Question number one. He mentions that in B'midbar Rabbah, in the Midrash Rabbah, so explains over there that he took himself. He took himself out of mainstream Judaism, and he took himself to the side, and he diminished himself essentially by getting involved in this debate and the nasty things that he said. So he took himself away. Unkelus, Targum Unkelus, he also gives a similar meaning. When he translates into Aramaic, he says essentially that he seceded, or he differed himself from everyone else, and it doesn't mean literally. It's not what the word means literally. It's not the meaning of the word, but it's the context, the Ohr Hachaim comments. Okay. So he says like this. Now, although the Midrash and the Targum Unkelus are correct, meaning that's the idea the pasuk is trying to tell us, but he says, the Ohr Hachaim says, there's another way to explain it that actually fits in the word itself. So in other words, the explanation by Yikach and that he took, they're not giving a explanation of the word. They're explaining it figuratively means that he separated himself. That's not really an exact meaning, an accurate meaning of the word Yikach. So the Ohr Hachaim is going to give an explanation that he says is also going to explain it according to the actual simple meaning of the word. That's the first point that he makes. Before we get to that, he asks another question. When we started to mention who Korach is, why did we mention that he's the son of Yitzhar, who's the son of Kahos, and the son of Levi? Right? These were great people. These were holy people. Why are they being associated with Korach? Maybe often to identify someone, we go one generation. We say Ben someone. We definitely don't normally go multiple generations. And even then, we don't always say that. We have Yisro. It says the father of Moshe. We just give an identification. We don't tell who his father is. There's plenty of ways we could have identified Korach. Why did the Hashem choose to put in the Torah that he was the son of Yitzhak, the son of Kahos, the son of Levi, essentially associating these holy people with Korach in the middle of his rebellion, when seemingly there's no need for it. It does enhance the rebellion. It doesn't explain what he's saying. So that's the next question. On top of this, there's another midrash in the Midrash Rabbah that really they should have even said, not only should have said the son of Yitzchok, the son of Kos, son of Levi, it should have added on, and the son of Yaakov, right? Should have said by all rights, seemingly. We don't know why it even mentions them, but somehow the Midrash has a presumption that it should have said Ben Yitzchok, the son of Yitzchok, the son of Kos, the son of Levi, the son of Yaakov. And why wasn't Yaakov mentioned here? Because he davened. He begged Hashem, please don't associate my name with fights amongst Jews, with discord and lack of harmony amongst the Jewish people. He davened he shouldn't be associated with Korach. He saw prophetically that there's going to be such a rebellion, and he doesn't want to be involved. So seemingly, without this prayer, without this tefillah, we would have even mentioned Yaakov, gotten another generation. So why? Okay, that's the next question. Yes, David.
A person could also ask, why does the verse begin with a vav, which means and? It sounds like a continuation from before.
Good. He doesn't ask that question, but at least not in this first comment. But yeah, that's a good question.
So it seems like it's connected to the tzitzis, because the previous thing was talking about tzitzis.
That's how, as I'll say, is the hint to the question that he asked about wearing his blue
tzitzis,
outfit.
All
right. And then again, before we get to any answers, the Ohr Hachaim Kodesh asks another question. Why do we mention Dosam and Aviram like in the same breath? Right? Why is he connected? So if the Torah wanted to say that they also took whatever he took, they took, right? You want to say that Korach took and Dosam and Aviram took, then instead of saying Vayikach and he took, it should have said Vayikhu and they took. So it's not that they all took, whatever this taking means, which he's going to explain. Right? It's only Korach took. So if that's the case, why mention these other people in the pasuk, in the verse? What have they got to do with anything? Next question, right? We're going to have a whole group of questions, and the answer's going to come together and answer all the questions. What does it mean? Actually, in the next verse, it says literally they rose up in the face of Moshe and Aaron. So if it means that they gathered against Moshe and Aaron, we've got that in previous verses when people came and they had some type of complaint. It says V'yikalu on Moshe and Aaron. They gathered against Moshe and Aaron. They assembled together against Moshe and Aaron. So if that's what we're meaning in the verse here, that's what it should have said. What's this? They went up against his face, rose up in the face of Moshe and Aaron. And to make the question bigger, it doesn't just mean that they took an upright, like they were saying we're superior, because we have further about the 250 people who came and they said they want to be Kohen Gadol. Over there says B'yikalo b'yakumu, and they gathered and they rose, right? So they elevated themselves. They said we're the equal. So we have a different term. So it must have a different meaning. So these are all the questions. So again, let's just quickly summarize the questions. We get to the answer. Question 1, it says V'yikach Korach, and Korach took. What did he take? We don't know what he took. Yes, it's translated generally that he took himself to the side. He separated himself. But that's not the meaning of V'yikach. Perhaps we could have used another word if that was the only meaning. Question 2, why do we mention all these ancestors? Why are we associating? And to make the question greater, if not for the fact that Yaakov davened that he shouldn't be associated with Korach and his rebellion, we would even mention Yaakov. What's that got to do with anything? Question 3, where did Dasan or Aviro come into anything? Why are they mentioned like in the same, the Ohr Hachaim used the expression, the same breath, but in the same verse? If they all took whatever Korach took, should have said v'yikchu, and they took, not v'yikach. So where do they come in? And the fourth question is, what's the meaning when it says in the next verse that they rose up in the face of Moshe and Aaron? What's the meaning of that term? So that's the questions. Okay. Any questions
Rabbi,
or anything clarified on that before we move on to the answer?
Rabbi, is
Yes.
there anything that connects this term Vaikach from the standpoint of kicha as just as a man takes a woman by means of three methods, that here that Korach took them by means of money, funds.
Yeah. I mean, there could be a hint to that, but the point that the Ohr Hachaim is making is that it says Korach took, but it doesn't normally. If someone takes something, so let's say, for example, a previous three parshas ago, right? So we have Shem tells Moshe to take the Levium. Okay, so he takes them through speaking, through. Doesn't mean he picks them up, but it says who he's taking. Kachas Levium, take the Levites. So it's not only the choice of word that could connect it to the method of how he took. The point that it's making is it doesn't say what he took. That's the Ohr Hachaim's question. So the Ohr Hachaim starts to explain, and it's not a quick answer, so we'll work through it. He says the point that Torah wants to make is he wants to tell us essentially the root cause of this machlokes, of this attack on Moshe and Aaron. Because if you look at the Torah, you would have to ask yourself, how could Korach even imagine that he could succeed in rebellion against Moshe? Right? Moshe had proven himself again and again. He stood up to the mighty Pharaoh, 10 plagues, splitting of the sea. He's brought man. This is not just someone who really thinks, I've been jilted, I'm just as talented and I've got whatever this guy has. Surely no one in their right mind really thinks that they were superior to Moshe over here. How did he think that he could succeed? And not only that, surely to the chutzpah to be able to go up against Moshe like that in public, wouldn't people stone him? So what's going on? So this is, the Ohr Hachaim says, this is why the Torah tells us the Korach took. What did he take? He took stock of the factors that led to him having a chance to rebel. Well, he took the opportunity. He looked at what was happening, and he took a chance to rally the people. So what happened? So the first thing is that it tells us he was the son of Yitzchok. Yitzchok was older than Kos's other sons, and so they couldn't make a claim against Korach. because he was the oldest person of that generation surviving. Right? Amram was the oldest son of Kahos, but he passed away before the Exodus. So he was a grandson of Kahos, and Kahos was the most illustrious, highest level son of Levi. Right? Kahos was the family that was entrusted with carrying the Aaron, the Holy Ark. And we're even told that Korach himself, within the family of Kahos, was one of the ones who was given the task of carrying the Ark. And then thirdly, he was descendant of Levi, who was the most illustrious of all the 12 tribes. So far we partially answered Vayikach. What did he take? He took the opportunity. He took stock of the situation. But we're going to explain a little bit more shortly. And we've mentioned now why it says the son of Yitzchok, the son of Kahos, the son of Levi, to show that he is the son of the senior son of Kahos. Kahos is the most illustrious family in Levi, and Levi is the most illustrious tribe. So he had all the reasons to be entitled to leadership. Then the pasuk, the Torah says, Hashem tells us that Dosam and Aviram, he took them to show that not only is he challenging Moshe on his behalf, his personal behalf, I should be the leader. No, he's challenging Moshe and Aaron, so to speak, on behalf of Dasan and Aviram. Why? Dasan and Aviram were the most important members of the tribe of Reuven. Reuven was Yaakov's firstborn son. Right? Now, the fact that they were important members of the firstborn tribe, these were factors that encouraged them to be able to say that they had a superior status to Moshe and Aaron, who were only from the third of Yaakov's sons. Right? So what happened was, Korach, if you come to defend your own rights, so then you're not the people's hero. What did he take stock of? What was the opportunity? He came now for the people. I'm not coming. Yeah, true. I'm an important person. I should have a position. I was overlooked. They've wronged me. But he comes, no. I'm here for Dasan and Aviram. They're from Reuven, Yaakov's firstborn. They should have a position. And then when it says, and they further, in the further verse it says, Va'anoshim, and they took men. So Anoshim doesn't just mean males in this respect. Well, we see that were other people, important people that's seemingly being overlooked. So he's coming as the defender of society. Okay. Now, the next point the Ohr Hachaim Kodesh makes is that also in the Midrash Rabbah, we see that Korach's main argument that he's having against Moshe was that Elisaphan, the son of Uziel, he had been put as the Nasi, the prince, the ruler, the head chief, we'll say, of Kahos, of the family of Kahos. So he took a whole list of arguments to prove that Moshe was wrong in this position. Right? He pointed out that he was the son of Yitzchok, who was senior to Uziel. Right? So Kahos was the son of one of the oldest sons. Korach was the son of an older son. Yitzchok was an older son of Kahos, while Uziel was the younger son. So if seniority of birth was important, then it should have been him. And if seniority of birth was not important, then why was Aaron appointed Kohen Gadol? Right? Seemingly, Aaron was the oldest son of Amram, of the oldest of Kosa's sons. So he had the most seniority of birth. He had the most senior position. So he was high priest. Then the next position should have gone to the next son. And that should have been him. So if we're going by seniority of birth, Korach's next. But you appointed a son of the youngest son. So seniority of birth is not important. So how does Aaron get his job? That was what he was trying to point out. So the fact that Moshe obviously was not influenced by seniority of birth, so he must have been nepotism. You appointed your brother. You're just giving jobs out to your family. Yes, Mordechai.
Yeah, and furthermore, there was a position, the Nasi of the Nasim of the Levi, which went to Elazar, Aaron's son. So
right.
there
Didn't
was
even get to that, but yeah.
Right.
That's right. It's all just nepotism. So this is why it said.
I once heard a joke. There's nothing wrong with nepotism as long as you keep it in the family.
That's right. Right. So now the Torah tells us why it said Levi, the son of Levi. Right. It's to show us he wanted to essentially say that if you're not taking seniority of birth, then every Levi is of equal status when it comes to these jobs. So why Aaron or someone else? So he mentions Yitzchok to say that if you're going seniority of birth, so the first job, Kohen Gadol, went to Amram's son, fine. So the next job should go to Yitzchak's son. That's me. Oh, you're not mentioning order of birth? Then everyone's equal. All the Levium are equal. So I'm also a Ben Levi. So this was his next point, his next argument. Then he was afraid. He was afraid that the only argument which must succeed is the challenge of Elitzophan, that he was pointed as the why should he be given the job as a prince? Right? People might accept that. Yeah, Korach's more senior than Elitzophan. Korach maybe should get the job. But he was worried, he was afraid that no one's going to take his argument seriously, that he should be given preference over the sons of Amram. Right? Because at the end of the day, seniority of birth gives a certain precedence. So this is why he looked for allies from the tribe of Reuven. Because if seniority of birth was important, then the tribe of Reuven, Yaakov's eldest son, they should have been given positions. If you're going to tell me that the sons of Amram have a seniority because of their position of birth, then the sons of Reuven should too. And that's why he took them. Right? And this is going to answer a little bit which David asked, why to start with a Vav? Sorry, he asked about the word V'yikach, but over here we say the Dason and Aviram. Means and. He's connected. In other words, his challenge of how can you simultaneously claim the Kohen Gadolship because your seniority. When we have Dathan of Viram who have seniority and they don't get anything. Obviously, seniority is ignored. So therefore, since the seniority of the tribe of Reuven was ignored, they had no claim to position due to that. The high priest job did not get given to Reuven, got given to a different tribe, the tribe of Levi. Therefore, Aaron has no claim to being the Kohen Gadol within the tribe of Levi due to seniority of birth. So that's what it means. That's why Dasan Abiram are put in this same verse, right? In the same breath, to show that Dasan Abiram were essentially part of his complaint. And okay. Next. Is that someone in? All right. So the next point that Ohr Hachaim makes.
Rabbi, but isn't all of this presumptuous on the part of Korach that he's making no assumption? He makes no inclusion of the fact that that all of this is by Hashem's word. It's like
right. Well, one of the things that I mentioned at the very beginning, I'm not sure who said that before we even get to the Ohr Hachaim's comments, we gave a general introduction. This sort of led to him essentially starting the first reform movement, right? Because at the end of the day, if it all comes from God, then no logical argument helps, right? You have a infinite intellect who sees a far greater picture and made certain decisions. So that's why he had to ridicule some of the mitzvahs. He came and ridiculed the mitzvahs. Various things. He wanted to say that what Moshe's teaching us is not really from God. It's just Moshe's fantasies. And so that's why he did that. So the Ohr Hachaim, he mentions Gemara in Sanhedrin that it gives another reason. Well, it gives several reasons of the ancestors, why we have the list of Korach's ancestors. So the first thing he says is that Korach is not his name. Korach is a description, right? Korach means a bald spot, right? So essentially, he was a person who created a bald spot. What does that mean? He created a depopulation amongst the Jewish people, right? Between the people swallowed in the ground, the people who were burnt in a fire when they brought the incense. They had this overwhelming spiritual experience and they couldn't handle it. This caused a plague that Aaron stopped, but in the meantime, people passed away. So the Korach is not his name. Korach is a description of who he was. He was someone that he ripped the patch out of the Jewish people. Next, Ben Yitzhar. Yitzhar implies Saharayim, midday. Because what happened is he caused the world to become hotter at midday than it normally is. In other words, not necessarily on the thermostat, but he caused Hashem's anger, so to speak. So to speak, it was hotter. Then Ben Kahas, Kiha means blunted, right? He caused his ancestors to gnash their teeth by making them ashamed of having such a descendant. And Ben Levi, so the word like Levi, normally, funeral, but it means accompany. We accompany the deceased. So it's like a companion, companion. He made himself a companion to Gehenna. All right. Now, if we adopt this approach, then why was Yaakov should have been mentioned? because Yaakov produced a descendant who was Eikev Atzma the Gehenim, right? He, well, loosely translated as sent to hell, maybe is what I put, is bound for hell, for Gehenim. So he prayed. Okay. So the Ohr Hachaim mentions that, and then he asks, if that's the case, if you wanted to show these ideas, why would you take these holy people to show these negative connotations? Right? There surely are other ways that we could give this idea across. Why would you take the names of these holy people to show such negative things? They all great tzaddikim. Yes, our Korach's ancestors. But we're and to the point, we're even trying to show or attempt to find something negative reflected in the name of Yaakov about this idea. Okay. Now, it's not just a simple meaning. I mean, simple idea. Simple idea was that despite the fact he was the descendant of all these holy people, he still paved the way to the abyss. Still, even if you want to put that once, but we mentioned Levi's name twice in the in those few verses. So why do we have to repeat it? Okay. So the Ohr Hachaim, he says, before he can answer the question, he's going to have to give us some background information from Kabbalah. What's the first one? He says that the holiness, or the branches of holiness that Hashem puts on the Jewish people through the Torah, there's halachas, right? There's essentially, we'll call it, he divides it up. Essentially, I guess we'll loosely translate it. There's moral guidelines, right? And then there's judicial guidelines. So there's certain things that Hashem, that's legalistic, is judicial. These are the laws, and there's certain things that are even beyond the laws to a certain extent. It's a matter of a person has to be moral and have good midas and different things. Now, this is all given through Moshe to the people. So anyone who is going to start tampering with any of this, even with the order of how the details are recorded in the Torah, never mind trying to change something in the Torah, if you even change the order of how it's recorded in the Torah, it's as if that person is uprooting that particular holiness associated with the soul in that particular point. Now, why is this? And he puts the energy into klippa, into evil. Why is this? Because he has he's stopped holiness coming to the world, and he's put that godly energy that should have been holiness in the world into something negative. So for an example, this is my example now. I mean, just case is not a good one or whatever. They shouldn't think that the Ohr Hachaim didn't give a good example, but at a particular moment, there's certain godly energy that keeps me in existence. I won't say me, a person, and this person can move and do things now. Yes, they have a physical energy, but all of that is everything in the physical world is reflection of spiritual worlds. So there's certain divine energy that allows me to do action at the moment. And if I do a positive action and I invest that energy into something positive, this draws holiness into the world. It elevates the world and draws more spiritual energy into the world. If the person, or God forbid, takes that same energy and invests it into something negative, something wrong, something immoral, then that same godly energy has now become the energy source of evil. You know, it's an exile in the evil, so to speak. So for an example, so now this is, well, it's not an example, the Ohr Hachaim explains this is the reason for pigul, right? Pigul is if someone is bringing an offering in the Beis Hamikdash and he has the wrong intentions. He has the wrong intentions. So we'll just use a simple example. He's shechting the sacrifice, the animal. He's doing the kosher slaughter. And this is different offerings had different time limits of when they could be eaten. So let's say that this was an animal, an offering that you had to eat the meat within 2 days. The rest of that day, the night, the next day. So it had a 2-day time limit. And when he shechted it, he had a thought that he's shechting to eat this meat in 3 days. So if you're talking about wrong thoughts, it's rather benign. You know, it's not like, you know, he's not shechting it for the sake of an idol, right? That would be extreme, terrible, you know, instead of to God, to an idol. He's not doing anything like that. And it could be even, it's an accident. He thought that this carbon, this offering could be eaten for 3 days. He got it wrong. Doesn't even mean he did it on purpose. But the fact remains that since he had an inappropriate inappropriate idea, he's not only made this sacrifice that it's no good, he's made it like it's tomei. It's impure. It's no good. And if someone eats this meat now, this meat has to be destroyed, has to be burnt. If someone's going to eat it on purpose, they get korach, the most severe consequence, like their soul, so to speak, gets cut off from Hashem. Seems to be a very serious consequence for something relatively minor. So what happened here? So what happened is he's taken, again, when a person does something inappropriate, he takes this energy and instead of putting it into something positive, he's put into something negative. Now, the greater that energy is, then the greater the negativity could be. So I'll give an example. You can imagine, you know, if anyone's done any amateur wiring, hopefully you haven't, leave it to the professionals. But sometimes a person will be perhaps feeling something they shouldn't, and they give themselves a electric shock. So it's not good, but it's other than some discomfort, you know, a few minutes later, it's like nothing happened. Imagine a person, you know, those substations, right, where they have these massive amounts of power coming in, and then, you know, so it gets filtered into small amounts. Imagine a person made the same error in the substation. Be instant death. God forbid. Right? So the more powerful the energy, the greater the consequence of the error. Right? That's why these substations got these warnings. You can't even enter them. Got big fences around them, you know, you're not even allowed to go in because the smallest mistake, God forbid, only trained people and they wear safety gear and different things because it's dangerous. So this idea of taking this energy and putting something and creating something evil, when you have something as powerful as a korban, as a sacrifice and offering to Hashem, which, if it was successful and done correctly, brings the greatest spiritual energy into the world, then that creates the biggest opposite of that when a person does it incorrectly, because that's so powerful. And that's why even a small mistake even perhaps an accidental mistake in just an intention, not even an action, an intention when bringing the carbon can have such a great effect. Right, and so this is why it mentions, you know, so that's the background information. Okay. Background information number 2, piece number 2 we need to have. What happens is exactly where a person does something wrong. Now we're talking about if they did something deliberately. It's that particular thing that is going to cause some type of consequence. All right, so let's think of an example. Just make up a silly example. Well, let's have a good example rather than the silly one. Right, so we see and we know that in the ethics of our fathers, we had a situation where he saw a skull, and he says, "You were drowned because you drowned someone, and because they drowned you, they'll be drowned as well." So this idea, now you could say, you know, the guys who drowned you should get shot. What's this idea they're also going to be drowned? In other words, the instrument that they used to bring negativity, destruction into the world, the water, that will be the instrument of their demise. That's the system of how the spiritual and physical worlds work. Where the person created something negative, God forbid, that's where his consequence comes from. Next piece of background information to answer the question. He said that the letters written in the Torah are connected to the souls of the Jewish people. Okay, so although throughout history there's been hundreds of millions of Jewish people, but there's 600,000 general souls. 600,000 general souls. And every soul that's come to this world, there's a spark from one of those souls. And each letter in the Torah corresponds to one of these souls. And that's why there's 600,000 letters in the Torah. He comments, if you actually count the letters in the Torah, you'll see there's not 600,000. Right? There's about 350,000 something letters. But the way he just points it out, he just says the Kabbalists have a different system. But I'll just mention that it's reasonably straightforward. There are many words in the Torah that can be spelt with a vowel, without a vowel, with a yud, without a yud, etc. You know, similar to in English, you can write do not or don't. So if you would write all the words in full, you'll have 600,000. As many words are written in short, we have less. That's what happens. The next piece of background information. What happened was, as well as these 600,000 general souls of Jews, in fact, every soul is a spark of one soul. Right? Originally, you had the soul of Adam. Adam's soul included an aspect, a spark, of every soul that ever will and ever did come into this world. And when a person does the wrong thing, what happens is that everyone who was originally part of somehow becomes defective and flawed. Well, sorry, I didn't say that clearly. When a person does something wrong, anyone that comes out of him, there's a spark of his soul, will have some type of flaw. So since Adam made this mistake that he ate the fruit that he wasn't meant to eat. That's how it's possible for all of us, the descendants, to have flaws, to have some type of mistake. Right? Now, this continued that everyone was defective, essentially, until Avram. Avram went through his 10 trials, and each trial was a refinement, a repair, because there's 10 parts. The Chochmah bin Adas is 10 parts of the soul. So the 10 trials, each one rectified a different aspect of his soul. And this then came out the soul of Yitzchok, which is further refined by the Akedah, by being bound, and he was willing to give his life for Hashem. So any defectiveness left in him went out in Esav, and this is why we say that Yaakov was the rectification of Adam. Yaakov had the level of Adam before Adam ate the fruit. So, okay. So that's all the background information. Now to give the answer. Okay. So, Yaakov was like the original tree from which the 12 tribes or the branches they came from. One of which was Levi. Levi, in turn, had 3 branches, right? Gershom, Kahas, and Merari. Kahas had 4 branches, Amram, Yitzchok, Hebron, Oziel. And the branch produced by Yitzchok was Korach. As soon as Korach tried to tamper with the order of the holiness, which the Torah had laid down, which was God decreed, and he tried to interfere with who would be the Kohen Gadol, all the branches of holiness going back to the original tree, Yaakov, became flawed. You ended up, you bent something when you pull, everything is connected to gets knocked out of whack. And until now, all these branches contributed positively to Korach's stature as a distinguished person. Right? Once he rebelled and he went against Hashem and he went against Moshe, then he damaged everything that was further up, all the way back to Yaakov, which with that point it had all been refined, and that's why these great tzaddikim were associated in a negative way. There's still more to it, but I guess we ran out of time. The Ohr Hachaim can be very complex at times. Hope explained it clear enough. Hope it was. Any questions? Anything that I didn't quite clarify that we need to?
Rabbi?
Yes.
It seems like these are motifs, these are recurring events that have happened through the Torah, on numerous levels, but not to this degree. But you see, Yerucham, I think, and I think, and the Saddukim, rebelling against the Pharisees. I think we see this, these are additional motifs of the past that these are recurring events, that keep happening.
Well, essentially, Korach created it. Korach is the one who initiated the concept of people making up their own forms of Judaism, contrary to God's, to be able to serve their own purposes. Yeah.
It's even happening today.
Yeah, unfortunately. No questions. Okay, well, I guess we'll wish everyone a wonderful week. Hopefully, we made the parsha more understandable and not more confusing. And which we should all be inspired. It's really good to learn some. I'm glad I didn't know this was the subject of Thursdays. It's a wonderful thing to learn some Ohr Hachaim every week. It was a great tzaddik, and his commentary contains all levels of the Torah. It's something very deep and very beautiful. So hope you gained something from it, and wish everyone a wonderful week. And now Thursday, I don't feel funny saying good Shabbos. Sundays I do.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Good Shabbos.
Take care.
Yeah,
Shabbos,
Shabbat
Shabbos.
Thank you.